to the Money Factor with Dr. G, the money coach. I hope you guys had a festive weekend. I know I did, especially with Nate. How many of you know Nate's name came from Nathaniel, the Hebrew word, and it meant a gift from God? But you know what? I was sitting in my chair, stargazing, and the Holy Ghost said, Yolanda, you do not have to accept the gift. You could send it back. So guess what? I sent the gift back to the ocean and told it, die right there. So praise be unto God. We did not have any challenges with Nate, and thank you for your prayers. We appreciate that. We have a festive show for you on today. I'm excited about this man of God who's coming before us. His name is Byron Cage. He is a tax specialist, and he's going to answer some very important questions. So, small business owners, listen up, put your belt buckle on, your listening ears, get your pen and paper out, as Byron is going to tell us what we should and should not be doing as it relates to small business owner taxes. He is the president and CEO of BMC Income Tax and Financial Services. He is my personal tax accountant. He has done great things for me already, and I'm excited. And you know, if I bring them, they must be good. So listen, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after these messages. Are you tired of being denied because of your credit always being turned down? Are you ready to go from denial to approval, looking for that perfect credit application? Want to grow your credit score to a 730 or higher? Move from a low score to a high score? Want to live in victory in your life? Order now Dr. G's Step by Step Credit Repair Workbook for just $9.99 at www.ygliv.
In the month of October, we honor those who we have loved and lost, and all of us who remain in the fight, the Warrior Angels. New Orleans Talk Network and Boomer's Lifestyle Network present the 2017 Warriors Angels fundraiser for the Susan G. Komen For the Cure. Thursday, October 19th, 2017, 6 o'clock to 8:30 p.m. at the New Orleans Talk Network, 7601 West Bank Expressway, Marrero. There will be food, networking, and entertainment. All are invited. We will never stop fighting. We will never forget. I'm living my life like it's golden, living my life like it's golden.
All right, we're back, guys. We're back again. I'm excited. My special guest today is Byron Clark. Let me clarify that. They said I said Cage. That is not what I meant. He's so sweet. He said, girl, this is Clark, not Cage. I am not a singer. I help singers. So I thank God again today. He provides tax preparation. He's a tax consultant, accounting, payroll services, general business consultation, expertise in church and pastoral taxation and accounting services. So pastors, if you're on here today watching, we want to embrace your questions, guys. Write the number down, 504 341 8255. We want your questions. While Byron is here, he will answer them. He's a member of the National Association of Enrolled Agents, Association of Tax Professionals, a Society of Accountants, Louisiana Society of Independent Accountants. Byron, I'm going to turn it over to you, sir. Tell us a little bit about you, how long you've been in business. I know you're married to a beautiful woman. Tell us a little bit about you. And he's a minister, an ordained minister.
Yeah, praise the Lord.
Good thing to have a saved man doing taxes.
Hallelujah. Dr. G, I'm so very elated that you have invited me to be a part of this program this morning. The Bible talks about how people perish for a lack of knowledge and vision.
Yes.
And it is through mediums such as this that information and knowledge and education can be transmitted and disseminated to the listening public. I have been in practice now as an accountant and tax professional for some 30 years. I am blessed to be the CEO and senior accountant of my firm, which is BMC Income Tax and Financial Services, which is based here in Marrero, Louisiana. We are so blessed to have a varied of markets that we cater to. As an enrolled agent, I am admitted to practice before the Internal Revenue Service in representation of taxpayers in all matters of taxation and concerns. Whether you are an individual or a corporation, we are engaged in representing you in any matter that you may have a concern with. We also offer a payroll service in addition to our accounting service. And little did you know or not, we also are owners of Byron M. Clark Photography Services.
Okay,
So
awesome.
while you're having your taxes done, you can smile and have a picture taken as well.
That's good to know, Byron. That's good to know. Listen, Byron, you know this is the Money Factor, and we always try to bring facts to the show so that we can let people know exactly what are the top 10 issues for small business owners. One was health care. A second one was government regulations. 3, federal income taxes. 4, the economy. 5, tax compliance. 6, cash flow. 7, passion. You know how I feel about passion.
Yes.
8, client diversity. 9, growth versus quality. And 10, staffing. I want today to focus on 3 and 5. Wow, 3 plus 5 is 8. 3 is completion, 5 is grace.
Sure.
Hallelujah.
Sure.
So federal income taxes for small business owners, and I want to focus on tax compliance. So I guess first of all, and then it said government regulations. So could you kind of just break down for us the difference between those 3 topics before we get it deeply into them?
Well, let me start off by saying this. The Bible gives light to part of what we're going to be discussing today in Deuteronomy 8 and 18. It says, "But remember the Lord your God, for it is he that gives you the ability to produce wealth." And inside of that ability comes the impartation of wisdom, godly wisdom. And the Bible says that wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom. But with all that getting, get an understanding. It makes no sense to go out and knowing that you need a computer, you buy the computer, you bring it to your office, you sit it on your desk, but you don't understand how to use it. All you have is just a fancy piece of equipment. So it's important to go the next step, get an understanding of how to use that tool to enhance what you do as a profession and how you earn a living. And so here we are poised to seek to help individuals or businesses or pastors in a church with that portion of what we just said about wisdom and understanding. There are 2 terms that I often share with my clientele, and that is tax avoidance and tax evasion. Tax avoidance is legal. Every tax-paying citizen has the right to do whatever is necessary to avoid paying unnecessary taxes.
Okay.
And you do that through competent consultation with your accountant, your CPA, or your enrolled agent.
So legal avoidance.
Legal avoidance.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Make that very
Legal
clear.
avoidance.
Right.
The other term is tax evasion.
Okay.
Tax avoidance is legal,
Uh-huh.
but tax evasion is illegal. That will cause you to start wearing an orange jumpsuit
Okay.
and being
And
perhaps
federal
incarcerated, and you don't want to do that. And one of the issues there with the evasion aspect is that sometimes many individuals fail to include income on their tax return, or they just simply fail to file a tax return altogether. Sometimes it's just lack of understanding that there is a requirement for every citizen in the United States to, in fact, declare their income per an official document known as a tax return.
So how do you forget to include income? How do you do that?
Many times it's intentional.
Okay.
Because sometimes when you include all of your income, maybe you've been very blessed to be very profitable that year, and you look at the results of having included all your income, and there's not a whole lot of expenses, it ends up with a healthy net profit. Net profits are subject to taxation. And if you haven't planned your tax return properly, then you can end up owing a lot of money based on the taxation of those net profits. And so seeing that as an inevitable problem for yourself financially, sometimes there's that negative incentive to go back and reduce the amount of income that you've declared for the purposes of gain.
Right. Now I've had contractors contact me after fact
Yes.
and say the IRS came back on me because they said you sent me a 1099 at the end of the year.
Right.
Right? Or is it a W-9?
1099.
1099. And I'll go look at my my books, and
Right.
I'll say, yes,
Right.
I did give you a 1099 because you performed a task. Oh, I forgot about that. Well, I don't have anything to do with that. So it is the contractor's responsibility to make sure they include that income from that 1099.
That is correct. And oftentimes we find that sometimes the contractor doesn't receive a 1099 the way they should in a timely manner, in time to file a return. Well, you're not required by tax law to have a physical 1099 statement in hand when you're preparing your return. Just the knowledge of what that income was that was paid to you is all that is necessary. So aside from the intentional disregard for disclosing that income, sometimes there's just an unintentional disregard because you didn't know to include or you didn't receive your documentation in time to report it, and it just slipped your mind. You just honestly forgot, and there's no problem with that. There's no shame in that, but there is a tax penalty for underreporting.
Right.
No shame in that game, but subject to taxation penalty.
Right, which is why software programs like QuickBooks or things that nature are hiring someone like you
Absolutely.
to be able to funnel that type of paperwork to when you get it, even if you just give you the copy of the checks and the deposits.
That's correct.
At the end of the year, when I file my taxes, even if I don't have the 1099, at the end of the year, as long as my bottom line is lining up with the IRS bottom lines. Because one thing for sure, corporations are going to send those statements in on their behalf.
Right.
Because it's a tax break for them.
Right.
So rather you remember or not, or you don't have the paper rather in your hand
Correct.
or not, should not matter.
Well,
the fact is you have recorded it, you documented it, and you've included it in your income.
Now, that's an interesting point you made about corporations sending those 1099 statements out. You should also know that if you yourself, the contractor, is incorporated, then the issuing corporation or issuing person who you provide the service to is not required to issue a 1099 to you if you are of a corporate structure. And it's for that reason that good in-house bookkeeping or accounting on your part is in place so that whether or not you receive a 1099 or not doesn't matter. It's included. it's included in your disclosure and your return.
Hold that thought, Byron. So, listen, guys, we have to go to commercial break. Don't forget, call in for your questions. Guys, call in. I know you're watching on Periscope, Facebook Live, but to get your questions in, you have to call 504-341-8255. I'll be right back after these messages.
Are you struggling with debt collectors? Scared to answer the phone? Order Dr. G's Man Survival Kit and learn how to stop creditors. Visit www.ygliv.com or call 800-705-6840. Pedro, uno dinero. The U.S. dollar will collapse. Learn why you should buy physical silver and gold. Order Dr. G's P3. Plan, prepare, protect. Visit www.ygliv.com or call 800-705-6840. Identity theft is the #1 crime of the century. Protect your identity and visit lifelock.com. Use code LIV to receive a 10% discount or call Dr. G at 800-705-6840. Starting a church? Did you know churches do not have to be 501c3? For more information, visit www.ygliv.com or call Dr. G at 800-705-6840. Don't just get noticed, be remembered. Turn your business or event into a purple cow. Call Dr. G at 800-705-6840. Help Dr. G TV educate and share biblical principles to end-time prosperity and financial security. Donate now at www.ygliv.com or call 800-705-6840. Thank you for sharing with Dr. G and Living in Victory Ministries. Are you struggling with debt collectors? Scared to answer the phone? Or
Well, guys, we are back, and I understand we have a caller on the line, so we want to hear from that caller. Caller, you're on.
Hi, Dr. G. This is Nancy. My question is, if you do Uber, and that's being a private contractor, am I correct?
Correct.
Okay. So when you file your taxes and you do have a corporation, so you can use that up under your corporation?
The answer is yes. You're talking about the compensation that you receive as being an Uber driver?
Yes.
Yes. Uber, as well as Lyft, have a wonderful system of disclosure that they will give you at year end to help you with not only reporting your compensation that you receive as a driver, but also has a listing of varied expense categories that you're entitled to write off. There are different fees, as you should well know, that are associated with your driving for Uber that are tax deductible to the return. And also, not to mention the cumulative mileage that you generate in using your vehicle. In fact, because of the nature of what you do as a driver, mileage is probably your chief and main tax deductible amount that you certainly would want to take advantage of on the return.
Now, do they take? Should they be pulling mileage? What about the fuel?
When we talk about auto expenses, there are two methodologies that we apply. One is called standard mileage allowance, and the other is actual mileage allowance. The standard mileage allowance is whereby you have kept record of all the miles driven, and you take benefit of an IRS rate, a percent that is given per mile driven. Now, the second method is actual receipt method, whereby you keep a record of all the receipts for every time you buy gas, you have maintenance, you have repairs, and so on. You buy tires for your vehicle. But you should note that in the first year of declaring an auto expense, you're required by law to disclose the standard mileage allowance method first in the first year. That allows you to then oscillate in all subsequent years, meaning you can revert back, you can change your method of disclosure from either the standard mileage allowance method or actual expense method. But in the first year, you certainly want to use the standard mileage allowance method.
Excellent, excellent.
Okay.
Caller, did that help you?
Yes, it did. Thank you, Dr. G.
You are quite welcome. And don't forget, if you're here locally in the city, Louisiana, Byron, do you work in any other states?
Yes, we do. All states.
All states. So listen, guys, it doesn't matter what state you live in. Byron is the guy to go to, my go-to guy. That's what I call him, my go-to guy. So
Okay,
Byron,
because I'm in Atlanta.
you in Atlanta, so
we can
call
still
him.
service you. We can do business by FedEx, UPS, email, fax, telephone. We can take care of it no matter where you are.
Download files.
Download files, yes. Absolutely.
And he could do face-to-face video meetings.
Absolutely. And did you mention that you were incorporated?
Yes, I am.
Are you incorporated or are you an LLC?
I'm actually an LLC incorporated.
Let-
They have it where you incorporate as an LLC.
Right. Byron's gonna that's what we're gonna talk about next. Is Byron is going to share with us the indifferentiation of sole proprietor versus LLC versus incorporation, S corporation. Help us with that, Byron, because I think that's also one of our challenges.
Absolutely.
We think because we're a sole proprietor, we receive the same benefits as an LLC, and then
Right.
we think if we're an LLC, we receive the same tax privileges as a corporation. So can you
Right.
help us with that?
Absolutely. Once you, as a upcoming entrepreneur, have decided what kind of business that you want to pursue, the next step is to determine what type of business entity do you want your business structured as. And there are basically four types. The first type is what we refer to as sole proprietorship. Sole proprietorship is a one-owner business management whereby you get to enjoy all the benefits of the income coming in, but yet also you are responsible for all of the expenses and liabilities associated with being a sole proprietor. Then there is a partnership whereby two or more persons come together to engage in the running of a trade or business operation. Now, unlike the sole proprietorship, when you're partnering with somebody, you are sharing a percentage of those revenues as well as sharing the responsibility of liabilities and debts associated with being in a partnership. As a partnership, you are also subject to what we refer to as self-employment tax, just as a sole proprietor is as well. Self-employment tax is another term for Social Security. This is how the government allows you to contribute into Social Security so that in some point in the future, should you decide to retire and draw down Social Security, you will have had an opportunity to pay in throughout those years through this mechanism of SE tax or self-employment tax. And then thirdly, there is the corporation structure. A corporation is a business entity that carries its own legal status. It's separate and apart from you, the individual. And one of the biggest amenities behind being a corporation is that you get to enjoy what we call the legal veil of corporate protection, meaning if someone were to sue you, your personal assets, your personal holdings, your home, your bank account, your car are protected from an adjudication, a judgment that could be rendered against you. And then there is the S corporation. The S corporation is, just as a C corporation is, a legal status separate and apart from you being an individual, but the S corporation is a wonderful alternative to avoiding what we call double taxation. The S corporation is what we refer to as a pass-through entity, whereby, unlike the regular corporation, whereby you would be subject to paying an corporate income tax, the S corporation avoids you having to pay a corporate income tax because the net income is passed through to your personal tax return, and it is via your personal tax rate that you pay the tax on the corporate income that you have received. And also, it allows you to become an employee of your company. One of the very significant tax strategies as an entrepreneur, you want to minimize the amount of taxation that you are subject to. So why not consider putting yourself as a company owner, as a principal owner, on payroll, determine a salary that you want to pay yourself, pay your tax liability, your payroll taxes as you get paid, so that at year end, your corporation, which is a company that you own, will issue you a W-2, and you file that W-2 just like any other employee would. And then lastly, there's the LLC. The LLC is referred to as a hybrid entity. The proper terminology for LLC is limited liability company, not corporation. The LLC is not a corporation as such. It is a limited liability company. It is a entity that combines the characteristics of a corporation and a partnership or sole proprietorship. It too enjoys the corporate veil of protection without you necessarily having to form a corporation.
So out of all of that, Byron, which corporation would I better benefit as a small business owner to get the better tax break?
The first question to ask that any business owner would want to ask is, can I be sued for something that I do or not do in the performance of my business? And if the answer is yes, then you certainly would not want to remain as a sole proprietorship. You would want to escalate your business entity structure. And one of the easiest ways to escalate is to consider LLC, limited liability company. As we said, you can enjoy the corporate veil of protection as though you were incorporated without you necessarily incorporating. And then you can enjoy the benefits of writing off certain expenses under a corporate structure, under an LLC structure, that you may not be able to take benefit of just by being a sole proprietorship.
Gotcha. Okay, guys, did you get that? All right, caller, you
love
good?
that. Thank you.
Good. You're going to have to call Byron now so you could get some more answers so we can clear the line for a new caller. All righty. Bye-bye. Thank you for calling in. Listen, don't forget, call in 504-341-8255. Byron, I want to now move to tax compliance.
Yes.
What are the issues? And then I know we've talked a little bit about the small business owner. I want to also touch a little bit for pastors who may be watching. I know we've seen a lot of pastors go to jail.
Absolutely. Yes.
For inearment, making decisions that they otherwise believed were good decisions,
right,
or honest decisions made that they thought was good, but because of ignorance,
yes,
it caused them to be put into prison.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about what are some of the things that pastors should consider before moving into such a state. How do they get there? What do they do to get there?
Excellent question, Dr. G. Let's first start off by talking about the church itself. The church, as it is formed and properly formed under the Secretary of State's office in your particular state, is properly formed through the Articles of Incorporation, or another name is charter. Once you are properly chartered, the IRS recognizes your structuring as a 501c3 designation. 501c3 refers to the section of tax code that says a properly formed organization, nonprofit organization, can be exempted from paying an income tax on its income when recognized by the Internal Revenue Service. Now, all of the income that comes into a church does not belong to any one individual. Remember, you are formed as a corporation, so the income received belongs to that corporation. In the case of the church, the income belongs to the church. It's not the property of the pastor or the board of trustees, but yet the pastor and board or the financial management of the church is responsible for exerting good stewardship principles in the administration and accounting and stewardship over those funds that they're entrusted to have. Now, because you are exempted from paying an income tax does not mean that you're exempted from paying a sales tax. So when you go out to the public and you want to purchase something, there is no expectation of an exemption from paying a sales tax. But what you will find is that some vendors will in fact extend a professional courtesy to you because you are in fact a church and or because you are a tax exempted structure. Sometimes they will afford you the amenity of being exempted from paying a sales tax on the purchase that you're making.
But they're not obligated.
But they're not obligated.
That's something I think we needed to state because I have had churches and other nonprofits
Right.
believe that a state tax exemption is an obligation of the state
Absolutely.
or a law.
Absolutely.
But it's not.
It is not.
It's a courtesy of the state and those businesses rather
Right.
giving you that courtesy.
That is
but they're
correct.
not obligated
Absolutely.
by law or any other matter for that.
That is correct.
Okay.
And
All
then, and then
right.
also sometimes you'll hear the question asked, well, do you have a tax exempt number?
Mm-hmm.
Well, once you're recognized as a 501c3 organization, there is no number as such that is issued, but yet there is what we refer to as a letter of determination. And that letter discloses to you and to anyone who desires to know you about your 501c3 structure, it discloses that you are in fact recognized as a tax-exempted entity and that any contributions made to you are tax deductible by the contributor or the donator into your organization.
And let's back up a minute with 501c3 because, you know, I do 501c3s.
Yes,
You do
I do.
501c3s.
I do.
And one of the other challenges I have with churches is getting them to understand they do not have to be a 501c3 to be recognized by the federal government as a nonprofit.
Excellent point. You should know, audience, that the mere fact that you are a church, it grandfathers you in under the 501c3 ruling, which means you're not required to apply for and receive a special status. Now, having said that, many churches do in fact find it important and appropriate to file for the 501c3 recognition because this will cause the Internal Revenue Service to issue a formal statement to you denoting that you are in fact recognized as a 501c3. And also, let's go beyond that. There are many nonprofit organizations and foundations that may have a desire to contribute into your church, but won't do so by nature of the fact that you are a church.
Right. It's a catch-22.
It is.
And then we get into creating CDCs and things
Right.
of that nature.
Right.
I don't want us to get into this whole classroom thing. Listen, guys, we got to go take a commercial break. Call in 504-341-8255. I don't want Byron to lose focus on you SBOs, the church, the pastor, the nonprofit side of small churches, I
Right.
think, have real issues
Right.
more than the mega churches. So we'll be right back after these messages.
That's good. We're gonna-
Learn how to turn your cell phone into an ATM machine. That's right. conveniently make your deposits and withdrawals directly from your cell phone by simply learning how to trade global currency through foreign exchange. That's right, it's as simple as entering a trade, take profit, close the trade, take your cash, and that's it. Turn your nickels into dollars. Turn quarters into dollars. Simply by learning how to do global currency trading. That's right, it's bigger than the stock market. $5.3 trillion a day, 5 days a week, 24 hours a day of trading. That's right, making money right in the comfort of your home or eating at Piccadilly's with Dr. G. Learn the new rules of money, of Forex, global currency trading, by joining Dr. G and Marilyn Lee every Thursday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, located at the Piccadilly Restaurant, 533 Lapalco Boulevard, Gretna, Louisiana. So come out, have a bite to eat, and join Dr. G and the VIP traders as we copy, profit, and paste. See you there. Well, guys, we are back. Listen, time is running out so fast. So much information that we want to share with you guys. Byron, we're discussing tax compliance. Let's go back there and let's talk about the pastor gain. The church is like my passion.
Yes.
And I hurt for our pastors. My dissertation was on improving and assessing financial transparency in the Black Baptist Church.
Sure.
Because I think we struggle there as Black Baptist churches. I think we struggle in understanding where church and state is separate, but yet the church still has to abide by the laws of the land.
Yes,
so let's talk about pastors and how they separate their honorariums, their housing allowance,
Sure.
and things of that nature. There was a guy who they had on where the IRS was interviewing him, and he had this elaborate house that he was living in. He had this elaborate car and these elaborate clothes and these elaborate shoes. And the IRS, remember I asked you, can I do this with my TV show? And the IRS began to ask him, what did that have to do with him preaching the gospel? And he was clearly unable to respond in an intellectual manner. And therefore, of course, this guy was charged. And you know the story to that. So help us with that part.
As a 501c3 organization, as a church, even though you're exempted from paying an income tax on the contributions and tithes and offering monies that come into the church, if there is a payroll, you are not exempted from paying payroll tax. You're exempted from paying an income tax on the income received. But if you as pastor are on payroll, number one, if you're receiving compensation, the compensation that you're receiving is in fact subject to taxation. And as pastor, of all of the individuals who are on your church's payroll, you are the only one who is considered as what we call a dual tax-paying status. That means you are treated as a regular employee for income tax purposes, but then at the same time, you're treated as a self-employed individual for Social Security tax purpose. This is because when we do a payroll for a pastor, we are not allowed under normal tax compliance to withhold Social Security and Medicare tax. Of the four categories of payroll taxation, federal and state, Social Security and Medicare, we're only allowed to withhold federal and state. So therefore, you are treated in a dual status as being self-employed, which means when you get to your tax return, you are then subjected to not only a federal income tax on the income you've received, but you're also subject to the self-employment tax on the return. Since we know that as an accountant, what we do is we accelerate the amount of federal taxes being withheld during the year as you're being paid so that we can compensate for what's going to happen down the road when you go to file your tax return. Now, having said that, many times I hear in my consultation to bishops and to pastors and to elders in church, well, my church doesn't really put me on salary. They pay me a little love offering or they give me an honorarium now and then. Let me say this to you, pastors, and I love you to death because I'm an ordained minister. A horse by any other name is still a horse. I can call this pair of glasses a pen all day long, but at the end of the day, it's still a pair of glasses. I can call my honorarium by any other name that I want to call it, but it's still going to be an honorarium which is subject to taxation. And as such, you're required by law, by tax compliance rules, to disclose that income on your tax return. Now, you do have the option as an ordained minister not to have any taxes withheld. You can be paid straight compensation. You're not subject to or mandated to have taxes withheld. But if you don't, the end result is when you get to your tax return, you've not made provisions for the taxation that's going to be afforded to you. The other thought here is housing allowance. Housing allowance is not a separate and additional sum of money paid to you as pastor. Housing allowance is nothing more than a designation of the already stated salary to which you already that has been agreed to be paid to you. For instance, if your annual salary is $100,000, you are allowed by law to determine what portion of that $100,000 are you required to use as support for your housing. In other words, you determine how much does it cost you to live. What's the cost of your mortgage note? What's the cost of your payroll taxes? Not payroll, but your real estate taxes on your home, your utilities on your home, your telephone services. What does it cost you to maintain a home? Those are the increments of the portions of what we identify as housing allowance. So if you say, well, it cost me $20,000 to maintain my home, what we do is we then designate a portion of that $100,000 in my scenario. A portion of that $100,000 is designated as housing, $20,000. So what does that mean to you? That means that when the church issues you a W-2 form, rather than report $100,000 as income in box 1 on the W-2, only $80,000 is reported. That's a tax benefit that any pastor would want to be made aware of and take benefit of. That's a tax benefit of you being an ordained minister.
So stop right there. You keep alluding to pastor.
Yes.
What about elders and ministers
Yes.
who may be full-time staff members of a church? Do they also get that same perk?
The answer is yes. If, as an elder, as a minister, you are ordained or licensed and you perform the similar or same duties as that of a pastor, then you get to enjoy the same benefits of this tax provision.
Awesome. You guys heard that? All right. Listen, Byron has about 5 more minutes. If you have a question and you are a pastor, this is your time. Call 504-341-8255. 504-341-8255. Byron, while we're waiting to see if a caller calls in, can you please tell us your website, your phone number, how we get in touch with you?
Absolutely. My website is byronclarktaxes.com, or you can reach me at 504-341-0565. We're happy to receive your phone calls. We'd be happy to spend some time talking with you and conversing with you. You're welcome to make an appointment to come and visit me at my office in Marrero, or if need be, we'll come out to your church and sit and have a very amicable conversation with you. It is so important that we, particularly we as ministers of the gospel, we as leaders in the church, set the appropriate and example of excellency. The Bible Bible teaches us that there is a more excellent way. We are held accountable for the very souls of the very people that God has entrusted to us. We are the watcher of the souls as we stand on the wall doing God's business. And one of the ways to do that is by the disseminating of factual and appropriate information to our people, that they are not blinded. As the head is, so does the body follows. So as the head of the local church, as the pastor in charge, people will gravitate to your information, to your direction, to the information that you disseminate to them, that they may grow. The pastor is not the only person who should be prospering, but as a pastor prospers, that should be a spirit of transference from the pulpit to the pew. As a pastor is growing, as the church is growing, there ought to be evidence of that in the pew as well.
Awesome. Byron, I want to thank you again for taking the time out of your busy schedule and being with us today on The Money Factor. We surely appreciated you. Everyone is saying, I knew that this show was going to be the bomb. And listen, guys, as I shared with you all this morning on Meditating on Money Monday, paying forward. The Bible says in Proverbs 23, verses 21 through 23, buy knowledge, buy wisdom, buy insight. We must learn to pay for the services we need and the services we are not a student. I am a money coach.
Yes.
I am a literacy coach. But I'm not a tax accountant. I don't do taxes. I don't know the tax laws. That's why I hired me a Byron. So I don't have to worry about it. I let him do that. And then he directs me in the direction in which way I should go. And that's what you should do. So if you don't have good accounting skills, you don't have good bookkeeping skills, but you want to reap the greater benefit of having tax exemptions or getting the best tax credit, the best tax deductions,
Absolutely.
I would call a Byron Clark, not Cage Clark. Byron Clark.
Please.
Listen, guys, we're about to close the show. We have one fight right. Look, my time is running out. Listen, I want to see you next week. We have another great show. A young lady by the name of Shawn Rogers. She's coming from Gulf Coast Bank, and she's going to share with us all of the wonderful grant money that is available to first-time home buyers, those who are trying to refinance, those of you who are living in rural areas. There is some great grant money that's available, and she's going to tell us how you qualify for those funds. And listen, guys, be here next week. I hope you guys enjoyed the show this week. I know I did. I'm so glad Byron's my tax accountant. I don't know what to do. I hope you call him so you can benefit. Get the right tax credits. Get the right tax breaks for your business, for your ministry, pastors, ministers. You heard what he said. If you are a full-time minister and this is what you do, hey, I would not pass the opportunity by. And you know what I say? The smallest steps make the greatest difference.
Absolutely.
So start somewhere. This is where you need to start. I hope you've been blessed. I see you next week. This has been The Money Factor with Dr. G.